Oh, on this show, do you drink?
Hmm?
Do you drink
Sometimes, yeah.
sometimes? Okay. Well, all right. Well, then I don't. Okay. Well, we came up with when Gabe was here. We came up with the Vaush drinking game. Okay. So, basically, the game works like this. Every time Vaush says the word discourse, you have to punch yourself in the balls. Now, of course, I don't have to play it because I don't drink. So, but here's the thing.
It's cheaper than a vasectomy.
We're gonna change the words. We're gonna change the word from discourse to maritime trade. Okay, maritime trade. We're gonna talk about the Houthis.
Okay.
Okay, so maritime trade is a new favorite word of his. And you don't hear anybody else talking about maritime trade. And I have a larger point about this where sometimes some of these guys online are just looking for an angle. And his angle is maritime trade. Like you can sit there and say, similar to that Destiny scam and to the Sam Harris scam, I agree with everything you're saying about Palestine, but maritime trade. And then everybody goes, he said maritime trade. And then it causes a bunch of kerfuffle on Twitter. And he's like, but I'm against apartheid. I'm for a ceasefire. I'm just saying maritime trade. Click, 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 click. Count money, count money, count money. I personally think he does the scam all the time. He'll do it with...
Okay.
I'll name a few of his scams along the way.
I don't know Vouch that well. Does he portray himself as a socialist?
Yeah, but he's getting a little more... He's starting to sound like John Milius. Do you know who John Milius is? He's Walter from Big Lebowski. He's a director,
Yeah.
and a writer. He wrote the Jaws monologue, the black eyes like those eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he's kind of a military nerd.
Okay.
Vaush really likes to talk about rockets and airplanes. Like they can't take us. They can't take on us. Like he's in it. And he'll be like, and he'll use the terms. You know how these terms like Operation Sword of Truth, you know? And he'll say those terms.
Yeah.
He really seems to be eating this up. And anyways, this is him with his, maybe it's sincere, maybe it's not, but it's certainly stupid take on the Houthis.
And I guess there are probably a few ways you could solve basically any issue. But with regards to the Houthi situation, the issue is that I don't really have any respect or patience for the interruption of maritime trade. I think that's
Okay,
dare you not to punch yourself in the balls after hearing him say maritime trade.
Also, as someone who portrays themselves as a socialist, what part of stopping a choke point of capitalism? I don't like the white supremacists who did the trucker convoy in Canada, but I got jealous that it wasn't us who did it.
Maritime trade. His argument. I want to be very clear. I'm gonna be as charitable with him as I'm never charitable. I always say, if you're looking for a charitable argument, don't tune into this show. Go to Amnesty International or go to the World Health, somebody like, and the United Way, and see if and listen to their pitch, and they will give you a charitable argument. They'll give you an argument as to okay. So no, I will be charitable for it because I understand. Okay, so I don't want us to get into too much trouble here. His argument is that hey, some of this stuff is going to Israel, and it certainly he's claiming that there's no effect on Israel. It has no effect on Israel. According to Reuters and Washington Post, it's having a major effect on their trade.
There are
shipping costs.
There are certain insurance companies that are refusing to insure boats that are going to Israel now.
He's saying, if you go through the Red Sea, they're telling you not to go through the Red Sea. So if you go through the Red Sea, they're going to shoot at you. They're enforcing a blockade. But so he's saying, well, some of those some stuff is going to be going to starving countries and stuff, and People are sending food and things that they need. And that's being interrupted. It's being delayed, etc., etc., etc. Okay, fine. Here's the problem with that. The ICG just said that, pretty much just said that there's genocide going on in Israel and they need to get it together. And there's enough evidence to continue on with this process of prosecuting them. So, as a form of retaliation, the American government and the Israeli government have now cut off aid, completely cut off aid to the West Bank and to Gaza. So now, according to his argument, by his logic, South Africa should never have gone to the ICJ in the first place. They should have never pressed charges. And that group in California probably shouldn't sue Joe Biden because it might affect the upcoming election. I mean, that's the kind of logic he's using. That if somebody takes an action to stop a genocide, there's going to be consequences to that action, and we shouldn't be suffering the consequences. Well, I always say this. If somebody burns your house down during a riot, and that riot ensued because a cop shot an unarmed person, it's not the rioter's fault that your house burned down. It's the cop's fault. All right. There's one way to stop that blockade from happening. All right. And by the way, he could call into the Sam Cedar show and argue with him, but he won't.
But let's be honest, like, there's been so much bombing, like, the genocide is pretty much already done. The fact that there's no fresh water there.
Oh, no, it's still happening. It's ongoing because they're starving those people.
Any respect or patience for the interruption of maritime trade. I think that's a very destructive thing to do. It would be like if there was like a bad thing happening in one place and then in another separate place, some guys robbed a bank and they were like, yo, we'll stop robbing the bank if the other bad thing stops happening, you know?
Well, it depends on if that bad thing is related to what the bank is doing. What the fuck are you talking about? I think before he said a cop shoots an unarmed person and then you rob a bank. Well, is that bank financing the police union pension or something? I mean, like, they're not attacking random ships. They're attacking ships that are going through the Red Sea, and they're saying it's because of the genocide. This isn't like a rant. He's so bad at this. This is what I'm talking about. He said this to trigger people. Now here's the part where he has to justify the statement. I'll give you another example of what he said. One time he goes, this is what he says, and you cannot tell me this isn't just to provoke people.
Right.
He's constantly insulting the left.
Okay.
Right? So he goes, the left is Andrew Tate is the left's fault. Because his logic being left-wing political commentators don't teach young men how to get pussy. Okay. So, okay, but that's literally not their job.
No, yeah, no.
Okay. And they're the last people you might, maybe Hassan, but I mean, maybe Cedar, maybe Hassan.
But Hassan does Chad Vice.
Didn't he do, yeah, there you go. Didn't he date Janine, what's her face? Or, I can't remember her name. The girl, the skinny porn star that got thrown off the roof by the Dan Bilzerian guy. Okay, well, whatever.
Wait, what?
So, Dan Bilzerian threw Hassan's girlfriend off of a roof. She's a porn star from somewhere from a few years back. Real skinny girl, very left wing.
Okay.
Anyways, one of the viewers, one of Vaush's fans asked Vaush, "What's your? Okay, fine. You want to teach guys how to get laid? All right. What's your opener?" And Vaush goes, "Well, you should just ask a girl what her favorite anime is." I'm serious.
I mean, if you're in Comic-Con, that might work.
If the girl's wearing a shirt that has anime on it.
Yeah.
And you know something about anime. That's like, that should be like a thing you maybe hold on to for like till the second date. That's not something you should say like right up front. I like anime. What's your name? I like anime. What's your favorite anime? All right.
will stop robbing the bank if the other bad thing stops happening. There's police brutality going on in Brooklyn. We'll stop the bank robbing as soon as the police brutality stops. And you could stop the police brutality. In fact, you should. But I think you should also probably just directly stop the bank robbers. I wouldn't.
I really feel like genocide is black and white. I mean, it's one thing to do that, to say something provocative about Andrew Tate and how the left is at fault for Andrew Tate, because Andrew Tate is filling a space that whatever, and ignore, and then trying not to debate anybody because they're gonna, dunk on you for that, saying something that dumb. But it's another thing to do this with genocide. I feel like this is crossing a line. And, and by the way, the reason why he should have to call into the Majority Report to debate Sam Cedar, and the reason he's not being invited onto the show, is, I'm guessing, just this stuff. This is exactly why. This kind of turmoil and drama
is
why, if he gets invited onto the show, they start getting comments like, why are you inviting this guy? He said the N-word. He said this about women. He said this about trans people. That's why you're not getting invited on, dude. Because it's not worth the pain and suffering.
And let's be honest, the reason why he's actually going after the blockade on the Red Sea is because it's been effective.
It's been effective It's been effective in drawing Biden into more violence. It's been effective in affecting Israel's it's affected Israel economically. Listen, I don't know how sincere he is. I don't know how, I think he sincerely knows the genocide is wrong. I just don't think he's as emotionally invested in it. It's sort of like an abstract thing, and that he knows this is an angle that nobody else is talking about. Like everybody else is cool with this blockade except for him. And he's not cool with it because of maritime trade. He literally said, you don't have a right to talk about this topic unless you know about maritime trade. This is the most, to turn this a genocide into some nerd chess game. It just feels so
but the fact
inappropriate.
That he actually said that?
This didn't offend me. Tom McDonald song genuinely did not offend me. This offends me.
He actually said that. You can't talk about...
Yes, you can't talk about the Houthis blockade unless you understand maritime trade.
Like it's identity politics for merchant marines or something?
It's insane. That is an insane statement.
Take them at their word, and I don't really think that they get to do another bad thing because of the pre-existing bad thing.
Right, yeah. And I've heard you say those like positions that you hold in some of your other videos on this subject. My main contention would be that I don't think that stopping the piracy is as simple as like shooting a bank robber. And I actually think that causing a ceasefire in Gaza with Israel would be simpler than solving police brutality. I would be open to the discussion that, like, if we're taking the ceasefire position off the table, then what are we going to do? And I think that opens up a much more complicated discussion of potential solutions with the Yemenis bombing, or the Houthi bombing, or the whatever you want to call it. But I don't think, like, I think that we can do both, right? As you've said yourself. I think that we should be suing for peace, and I do have reason to believe that the Houthis would stop doing piracy if Israel created a ceasefire. And I think.
Oh, just to be clear, Vaush also claimed that the Houthis weren't. This blockade had nothing to do with the genocide, and he's like, just because they said that doesn't mean I have to believe them.
Okay, but when did it start?
Exactly. And here's the other thing. And then he would make the argument, well, fine, they did it, but they have ulterior motives. They're just trying to they're just trying to make themselves popular or get on the good graces of the Arab nations and all this stuff, or whatever. They're just trying to give it some positive publicity for themselves. Well, I would say, you know who doesn't support Palestine, who supports Israel, is Ukraine. Now, I find that weird that a country being occupied and fighting invaders is against Palestinians resisting an occupation and fighting invaders. And yet, I can't help but wonder, are they white supremacists? They just believe that their occupation matters more than that occupation because of the color of their skin? Or maybe do they have some kind of ulterior motive for their support? See, countries have ulterior motives. Their foreign policy is often based on motives.
If Israel created a ceasefire, and I think we could kind of talk about that because, like, I'm kind of curious on your position why you think that they wouldn't stop doing that. Is it just because you think they're kind of like more of a ragtag group of just troublemakers? Just
well, I think they're disingenuous, to be sure. I don't think that they're. I think their rhetoric, from what I've seen from their leadership and the messaging they've given, has kind of reaffirmed that. The fact that they initially said they were just stopping like Israeli traffic, and then they were like, well, no, actually, we're going after all of it.
You mean after they realized that a bunch of ships were coming in through the fucking Red Sea and they couldn't tell which one was which? So they just said, any ships coming into the Red Sea, you're going to get shot at?
Yeah, if you're going to try and make it a blockade, like, and you were to just go after, ships that you think are going to Israel, how easy would it be for them to fake it?
Yeah, do they have like a sign on their boat that says, hi, we're going to Israel. We have bombs that we're going to use to kill children.
The impression that they were just sort of being opportunists. But even then,
they got signs that say black-owned business.
If I knew, like, even if I knew, like, divinely somehow, that the Houthis would stop if we did the ceasefire and it would work, I would still advocate for bombing them, I think.
What?
He said, even if the ceasefire stopped and then the blockade ended as a result of the ceasefire stopping, he would still want to bomb them.
Holy... Okay, so...
So that's who he is.
Yeah.
He's turning into John Milius.
Okay, so...
Look up John Milius. He wrote
insane.
Apocalypse Now. And listen to him tell you the origin of Apocalypse Now. Do you want to know the origin of Apocalypse Now?
Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, when he's talking, you'll be like, oh, this guy's a nerd. But he's a nerd that walks around with like a gun all the time. He's Walter.
Yeah.
He's Walter. That's who they based Walter on. From Big Lebowski. He'll be like, well, when I was on campus, there used to be these, he's got glasses and everything. And he's like, there used to be a lot of guys that said, peace now on their shirts. And so I made a button that said, apocalypse now. I'm serious. That's where the title of that movie came from.
As a nerd, these nerds make us look bad.
Yeah, no, it's an army nerd. He'll like tell you everything about Hannibal and Genghis Khan, and he's like, well, he probably has like a den with little soldiers in it. He's recreating the Battle of Little Bighorn, or like...
So basically, Vaush is saying, like, we need to have a war with Yemen, and no matter what happens, we need to commit to that war.
Anybody who does any bad thing needs to be... Any country that is not operating in a full democratic manner needs to be bombed into democracy. That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. That's, we're going to bomb some democracy into them.
Okay, that's fair. And I guess
By
the
the
only
way, did
reason
you hear that? Wait, I'm sorry. I guess I missed the punchline. I skipped the punchline. That's the best. See, this is why, because he could call into Sam Cedar's show and get a debate. He wants to go on the show and he wants to be the guy that owns somebody like Aaron Brown or somebody like that. It's not going to happen. He needs to call into that show and have a debate, because this is what I'm hearing. This is ridiculous. This is supposed to be a debate. This is a challenge.
These would stop if we did the ceasefire and it would work. I would still advocate for bombing them, I think.
Okay, that's fair. And I guess...
Like that just went right in one ear and out the other. The guy didn't go, wait, what?
like the most sociopathic thing he could have said. And he's like, yeah,
Oh, that's fair.
I guess, you know, you got a point.
Yeah, okay. Oh, okay. I'm cool with that.
The only reasons that I think that they would probably stop is I don't even really disagree with you that they're being disingenuous and they're just being opportunistic. But I think that, like, how just appalling Israel and the United States is acting is causing this giant opportunity for enemies of both Israel and the U.S. to kind of act up and, like, get applauded by the rest
There's only one way to remove the opportunity.
of the world. Like, even by people like Kyle Kalinske and Hassan, like, they're applauding. Like, I think I watched Hassan's interview with the Houthi rebel, and I was kind of shocked that he, like, got a Houthi soldier on his stream and was interviewing him.
Yeah, we just went over.
I know. It's almost as if he wasn't a Houthi soldier. Dude, he literally has a title of a video called Hassan's Interview with Houthi Militant.
Okay.
And Vice Magazine did an article on it. This guy's just a TikTok kid.
Okay.
Who, because apparently the ships that they took are being used like as tourists.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if they're charging money, but you're allowed to take a tour on the ships that they captured.
Okay.
So he went on, took a tour, and filmed himself. And he's like good looking. They call him the Yemenis, the Yemen, Timothy Chalamet, but he's better looking than Timothy. I don't understand this Timothy Chalamet thing. So, I mean, I don't understand. I don't mean the comparison. I mean, I don't understand this Timothy Chalamet thing.